What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, you meant to think I'm back at it with another ranking. And today we are going to be ranking all 10 Conjuring universe movies from the worst to the best. So that, of course, would be the 4 Conjuring movies, the 2 Nun movies, the 3 Annabelle movies, and La Llorona, for all ranking them from the worst to the best, in my opinion, of course. But before we get into actual beginning of ranking itself, guys, don't forget, please subscribe if you're new to the channel, because number 1, it's absolutely free, number 2, also maybe help the YouTube algorithm, and I recommend the video to more people, and maybe they could join. And you feel free to comment your thoughts on the Conjuring universe as a whole down below. With that being said, guys, let's get right into it. As well, I would just like to preference that this whole entire franchise was all first-time watches for me. I've never seen them before up until now, so I'm taking this. So take this from like a fresh, new perspective, because I hadn't seen any of these movies before. So, coming in at number 10 for the movie that I least enjoyed in this franchise is none other than the only movie that has never had a sequel in this franchise, The Curse of La Llorona. And this one I actually went back and forth on quite a bit too when I was posting my Letterboxd review for this, where I was thinking about giving a C- because I think the acting is decent in here, especially by Linda Cardellini, who's as the main mom. And I do think there was some decent enough directing in here. However, I ended up deciding no. I decided to give it a D. And this was actually my pick for the worst of the Conjuring universe movies that I experienced, because this movie bored the ever-living heck out of me. There's some boring movies in this franchise, but I think this one, for me personally, takes the cake, where I was not having a good time at all with this. And I thought there was actually some potential, because La Llorona is actually based off a real-life, like, folk tale in, like, Mexican culture and stuff. So when they said they were going to adopt it into a new movie that's in their universe, I was going like, okay, that could be cool. Let's see how it is. But the way they use her in this movie, there's not even enough of her to really call the movie The Curse of La Llorona. This movie just bored me to my core, and I can't really come up with any other positives except for the acting was decent, and I thought it was decently directed. So, last place, Curse of La Llorona. Coming in at number 9, I have The First Nun. Now, the one thing that puts this over La Llorona for me is just because Valak as a entity, I think, is cool enough, and there were some pretty decent sequences that happened in this movie. Especially there's one buried alive sequence that definitely made me feel claustrophobic and like tense up while watching it. I did as well think that the opening of the film was quite solid. So that's the only reason why I put it above La Llorona, but still, that doesn't mean in particular that this movie's very good. It's essentially most of the movies outside of the Conjuring universe, with 2 exceptions, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in this video. Not Conjuring universe, but the 4 main Conjuring movies. Most of them are rinse repeat, where it's essentially like a roller coaster ride, as one of my YouTubers has put it, where it walks and then you get jump scared. The movie keeps on going, and like you have some exposition dumping, jump scare, and like it's literally that for the whole entire movie until you get to the final act of the movie, which I don't think is all that satisfying at all. And it being a nun movie and all, for the first film especially, I was expecting them to at least have some lore with Valak, but they don't end up doing that. They just essentially bring in this lore with the blood of Christ, which is the object that they end up trying to defeat her with, which I thought that was interesting. However, it's Valak's movie, so I was expecting some backstory with her, but You don't get that in this movie.
At number 8, I have the first Annabelle.
I'm gonna be completely honest, this and The Nun are pretty interchangeable, where Annabelle also is kind of falls under the same category, where it had some potential since she was a standout part of the first Conjuring movie, and having her own movie, like especially as a doll, sounded intriguing at the time, so no, they did not deliver here. I think this bored me too. I think the characters are nothing to write home about. I don't even think it uses Annabelle to her fullest potential in this movie. So yeah, and I would just say this as well. It's one of the most forgettable. No, La Llorona, I'd say, is the most forgettable movie of this franchise. But like for a movie like that, you forgot what all that happened in the movie. Like you know the movie exists, but you can't remember anything about it. This is that movie right here.
7 of the second most recent addition on this list, that of course being The Nun 2.
I would say definitely that this is an improvement compared to the first Nun, but still saying that it's not really that high of a bar. The only reason why I do think I prefer this over the ones I have below it is just because I think the characters this time around are much better than they were in the first Nun movie, where they actually try to give like a compelling little friendship that the main dude from the original Nun has in this one with this like family. Also has what's that character's name? She's from Narnia, and she's like a mom to a daughter, basically. I mean, obviously, if that. Anyways, but her little relationship with the guy from the first film I thought was cute, especially the relationship between the daughter and him. I thought was really nice stuff. I do like it how it's in a full-blown church with a lot of people around. I thought that was pretty decent enough, I guess. And I think the final act of the movie is pretty decent too. However, it does still have a lot of the same problems as the first Nun movie does, where it's just walks along, jump scare. Keeps going, jump scare. Keeps going, jump scare. Then get to the final part of the movie. And it's a shame, too, with these two Nun movies, because you don't really get enough of Valak in their movies. You certainly feel like her presence a couple times throughout the movie, but you don't have her at all in her own movie until like a few glimpses of her, then her fully revealing herself in the final part of the movie. So like that generally annoyed me with the Nun movies. They were such big disappointment.
6 of the third film in the Conjuring franchise, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
I'd just like to point out from here on up, I do actually like these movies now. So, with The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, I thought it was a massive step down compared to the first two Conjuring movies, which I heard going in, which I went in a little bit nervous, but I was actually a little surprised by this one. I still did enjoy it. I think the Warrens themselves are still great characters, and Patrick Warburton and Vera Farmiga still do great in the roles in this movie. I thought the main plot was very interesting, based off a real-life event with this guy claiming that he was possessed when he murdered somebody. I thought that added for an interesting story. I think there is some decent things done with as well the story that you have where somebody is cursing people and making them be possessed and stuff. I thought that was interesting too. However, where the movie loses me a bit is it feels way too overstuffed compared to especially the first two movies, where I was going, man, that's a lot of different storylines in one movie, where possibly you could have them each in their own individual Conjuring movie, where I was like very surprised by. Jump scares weren't as great as the first two, and I would say even to a degree the third one has better jump scares than this. And this was disappointing compared to the first two, but I was a little surprised just because I had heard how so many people say, man, this was an underwhelming sequel to the franchise. So I still overall liked this one. It's just not my favorite.
Number 5, I actually have The New Dog, The Conjuring Last Rites.
Again, from here on up, I'll say it again. I do like these movies. I would say that this movie right here is good. It's pretty, I would say it's definitely, well, I mean, you can see here that I do enjoy it more than the third Conjuring movie, but it doesn't quite reach the level of the first two, though. I think there's moments for sure that it definitely does capture the magic of the first two, especially with the ending of the movie, how it ends things for the Warrens and their characters. I thought was beautifully done, and if this truly is the last film with the Warrens, I think they did a great job with that. And also this focuses on the Warrens as the main characters, which I'm super glad that they did that, because in the first two films, while I love them, it definitely does. It's a mixed POV where you're focused on the family and then you focus on the Warrens a little bit later on in the movie. But this time around, for the final film of the franchise, you do actually focus on the Warrens, and as well, Judy gets a main role to play in here. Um, as an adult, which I actually thought she was a nice addition to, where I'm glad that she got a bigger part compared to like the past Conjuring movies. So I was happy about that, and she wasn't that stereotypical character where like she's an angsty teenager and basically just disrespects her parents at every turn. She actually is actually quite likable with her relationship with her parents and this new boyfriend that gets introduced in this movie too, which I was actually kind of surprised by, that I actually really liked the boyfriend too, where again, I was a little nervous going in because we had Jurassic World Rebirth earlier this year with the boyfriend character, part of the family. That was one of the worst boyfriend characters I think I've ever seen in a movie. So I was going, oh, it's giving me flashbacks to that. But he did serve his purpose. I think the entities I was at rather 50-50 on, because they did certainly have unique designs about them, especially the axe guy. However, they don't really have anything that builds them out, which I was a little disappointed by, because in the beginning of the movie, it said that they have had a past with the Warrens, which I thought that was interesting, but they didn't really do anything to expand upon that. So I was disappointed about that. The CGI in this movie I do think is generally the weakest out of the Conjuring movies, which is sad to say. But as a ending to this 4-film arc with the Warrens, I think it ended things quite well.
Fourth place out of the last film in the Annabelle franchise, Annabelle Comes Home.
Yeah. So with this one, I think the cast itself, I think I do the characters in this I definitely prefer to Annabelle Creation. However, I do think as a whole I do prefer Annabelle Creation as a movie itself compared to this one, but I still did thoroughly enjoy this. Again, Judy plays a big role in here when she was younger, so that was kind of cool to see. And she's played by McKenna Grace, who gives a really good performance, especially for her age at this time. What other things happen in here? This finally has the Warrens involved with little tiny bits and pieces here that I thought that was cool. To have them interact with Annabelle, at least in the beginning of the movie. There are some pretty decent jump scares, and I do like how all of it's happening in one house from each person's perspective. So I did enjoy that. I just don't think it's as great as the ones I have above it. So that's the only reason why it goes here.
Now in the top 3 people, I have Annabelle Creation.
I do think this is easily the best Annabelle movie, which I know that's not saying a lot because the first film wasn't that great. But this one, I definitely think it came close to great. But it's just I don't think the characters were amazing. Like, they're good and they're characters that you certainly do root for. But I didn't think they were all that amazing. But I do like how it's again a group of people staying at a house essentially. This one had probably the best jump scares of the Annabelle franchise, which I was actually pretty surprised by. The lore that gets added in with Annabelle, and especially how the film wraps up, I thought that was a pretty cool way to end it, where it kind of leads nicely right into the first Annabelle movie. So yeah, I was surprised by this one, by how good it is compared to the first Annabelle. So yeah, it comes here at number 4. But not 4. number 3.
Almost at the number 1 spot, but coming in at number 2, I ironically have the second Conjuring film, The Conjuring 2.
I'm pretty sure this is everybody's top 2. Correct me if I'm wrong down below. But number 2 is The Conjuring 2, as I said before. This comes very close to the original, and possibly the more and more I rewatch it, I might even like it more than the original over time. We'll see. But this, I still think I do prefer the first Conjuring film by a tad margin. But this is still great. The Warrens, again, are great characters. I thought this had the best entities out of the franchise, with Valak, the nun, of course. Then you also have the Crooked Man that gets introduced in here, where I'm a little shocked that he hasn't had his own spin-off yet, because I thought he was very cool looking, and especially hit like the stop motion type of things with him. There's some good scares again. James Wan directs this one great, just like he did the first film. And genuinely, yeah, it is a great horror film. The only thing that held it back from possibly being even more tied with the original film for me is just, I think it is a little too long. But other than that, I still thought it was a great film, but not as great as my number 1.
And my number 1 is, of course, the original, the OG, the first Conjuring.
I mean, this totally reinvented the possession horror genre the year it came out, where most of the time the possession horror movies are usually the same, but this did something similar, but they also did something different with it at the same exact time. I think this has easily the best scares of the whole entire movie. I mean, this being a key one of them right here. Warrens, for their first outing, are great characters too, which is a little surprising too, because it is the first movie after all, so you have to really build up these characters, and they do a great job at doing that. The main family in here is very, very likable, so yeah. Conjuring, I mean, what else did you expect? The first Conjuring is something else of a horror movie, so, and it kicked off this whole entire universe, so it easily comes in here at number 1. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just my ranking of all the Conjuring universe movies ranked from worst to best. Be sure to leave your thoughts and rankings down below. But with that being said, guys, I'll see y'all next one, everybody. Peace out.